It's a party on the Riverwalk where the promise of potential has been realized in an image. A 7-footer from France handed the keys to the car as a mere teenager. Some 3 years later, the drive is undeniable. Now the road continues, and the next stop is Midtown Manhattan. John Gonzalez and Coach back in the mix here to set the stage for the NBA Finals. Game 1 coming your way on Wednesday. And John, when I look at these two teams, vastly different in the way they've arrived into this moment. What do you see when you put them on the same court?
Yeah, I can't wait for the series, right? I mean, first of all, we're all the big winners, and the league office and Adam Silver are thrilled about this because you're getting Victor Wembanyama, who's just otherworldly, and this young ascendant Spurs team into the finals for the first time in a while. And then the Knicks in the finals is obviously ratings blockbuster, right? That those fans, MSG, it's going to be raucous. They haven't been there since 1999. And the Knicks, look, they've been off for a while, but they were playing some incredible basketball before they took this little hiatus where they're on an 11-game winning streak. They absolutely steamrolled the Hawks, the Sixers, and the Cavaliers. And over the span of this 11-game winning streak, they have the best point differential in NBA history. And that is not just for the postseason. That is for the regular season and the postseason. And over that span, first in defensive rating in the playoffs, first in offensive rating. We know what Jalen Brunson can do. Karl Anthony Towns. They've got great wing defenders in OG, who's maybe the most underrated two-way player in the league, and Mikal Bridges. So they're playing great basketball. I do have a little bit of concern, though, about the backup big position. Mitchell Robinson broke his pinky. How does that look? He's going to play through it with a brace. He can't shoot free throws as it is, just 30% from the line. So what happens when he goes out? Because Mitch Johnson is going to employ some hack-a-Mitch Robinson when he's out there. So then do they go to Ariel Hukporti? You can't deal with Victor Wembanyama. Nobody has an answer for him, not the Knicks or anybody else. But, man, what an incredible series this is going to be to see those two teams facing off against each other like they did back in 1999 when Avery was there. We're all the big, whoever wins this series could go either way. I'm leaning Spurs, but we're all the big winners for this one.
And then you got Mike Brown, who was a Spurs assistant for a long time. And, he bounced around Cleveland and won a couple of championships as an assistant with Golden State. His family still lives in San Antonio. He said he's going to save some money by not finding his family around. So that's a big deal. So these teams, Mike knows Spurs, he knows the culture, he knows the organization. Obviously, the Spurs got Greg Popovich's fingerprints all over this organization. I just want to look at the Spurs' depth and their size at the wing position. The Spurs can't stop Jalen Brunson, but man, I thought for a couple of games they did a nice job on SGA. And we'll see what they do with Jalen Brunson in this series. But the quality of depth from the Spurs, we know Victor Wembanyama. He's a global icon. He and Karl Anthony Towns, they'll have some fun playing against each other. But the rest of this roster, I'm leaning Spurs too because the quality of depth on this team. And remember, Cleveland was up, 22 points in game 1 because New York had a little bit of a longer break. If the Spurs are up 22 points with 8 minutes to go, game over.
Well, there's longer breaks, and then what we're seeing here, it's listed as a rest advantage, and you have to keep it that, Coach. As John said, highest field goal percentage in any 11-game span in the playoffs since 1987, 53.3%. New York wanted it every other night if they could get it. How do they ensure that this rest is an advantage and not something that slows them or works against them?
Yeah, I think, the key is getting off the fast starts. You look at the Spurs in this series go OKC, even the game that they lost in game 3, they got off the fast start. We always want to talk about, the league being a 4-quarter league. But again, the Spurs, even in game 7, got off to a really fast start against OKC. Sure, Oklahoma City came back. Oklahoma City changed their lineup at the beginning of the third quarter, with Caruso and Jay Williams. So the Spurs forced them to play their hand even at the end, started that third quarter. So again, because they wanted to try to get off the fast start, they ended up tying, 24-24 in the third. So getting off to a fast start is going to be a major key.
All right, I'm going to ask you the unanswerable question here, John Gonzalez. Victor Wembanyama coming out of this series as the first player in NBA history with 15 or more threes and 15 or more blocks in the same series. It's a nice, concise picture of what he presents at both ends of the court. How do you game plan for him if you are the Knicks?
Yeah, it's kind of what Avery was saying about Jalen Brunson, that the Spurs aren't going to be able to stop Jalen Brunson, but maybe you can slow him down. You can't stop Victor Wembanyama. Nobody has an answer for Victor Wembanyama, and as well as the Knicks are playing right now, and they had the best defensive rating so far through the postseason. It's an impossible task. There's nobody who can guard that guy, especially when he goes to the rim. You were talking about his three-point shooting, which is fine. That's a part of his game that he has improved upon as he's matured in the NBA. But what really sets him apart, and what I like to see, is when he starts out aggressive offensively in the paint, when he's getting to the rim, because then really nobody has any answer for him. It's one thing for him to shoot that step-back three, which is also unguardable. Sometimes it goes down, sometimes it didn't. It went down in Game 7. It went down in Game 6. In Game 5, he was 0 for 5, right? So if you're the Knicks, you're loving if he's shooting threes rather than getting to the rack. But that is a major problem. And Avery had mentioned Karl-Anthony Towns going at Victor Wembanyama. I don't love that matchup if I'm the Knicks, because Karl-Anthony Towns, he's been playing better defense in this postseason, but I'm not thrilled about that. We talked about Mitchell Robinson. He's got that broken pinky on his finger, or on his hand, rather. He's got 6 fouls. You can send him out there to try to slow down Wemby and be physical with him. The problem is when Mitchell Robinson is on the floor, he's a threat to get fouled himself and then go to the free throw line. So the answer is there is no answer for Victor Wembanyama, but the Knicks will do their level best.
A series that will run through the bigs. Jalen Brunson will certainly have something to say about it as well. The marquee is obvious. You've got a New York star on one side and a budding, as you said, Coach, global star on the other. But I'm interested in your point of view here, Coach. What is the subplot? Because oftentimes these championships, these series are decided by something beyond what's staring us in the face. What's that second-tier storyline you're looking at?
I think it's going to be a guy like Mikal Bridges. In this series, he's had his moments. Is he going to be able to score the basketball in this series? Because if you can eliminate a Mikal Bridges, especially when you're double teaming Jalen Brunson, that bodes well for a team. That gives a team, a situation. Josh Hart. Can you double team off of Josh Hart? Because if you could play 5 against 4, 5 against 3, eliminate guys who are potentially threats offensively, that's going to be very helpful. Mitchell Robinson as a backup center, can he play 15 minutes a game or 8 minutes a game? And when he plays, we know he's not a very good free throw shooter. So I think the subplot, more than anything, is the supporting cast of the New York Knicks.
Yeah, that's a really good one, because Mikal Bridges, don't forget, back in that Atlanta series after Game 3, Knicks fans were calling for Mike Brown to bench him because he couldn't hit a shot. And then all of a sudden he couldn't miss a shot, and neither could the Knicks, and they just took off like a rocket ship. So that's a good one. OG Anunoby, as I mentioned, I think there's an argument to be made that he was the best two-way player in the first 3 rounds for the Knicks, or certainly for any team in the Eastern Conference. I'll go over to the Spurs, though. Avery touched on this a little bit. They're so big and physical on the wings and with their guards, right? I mean, from Castle to Devin Vassell to Julian Champagnie to here comes Dylan Harper and Keldon Johnson off the bench. Again, Avery is right. You're not going to stop Jalen Brunson, but if you were going to design something in a lab and said, how could you slow down Jalen Brunson? I'd say, well, give me a lot of size and athleticism. And boy, do Castle and Vassell and Champagnie and Harper and Johnson have all that, right? I mean, Stephon Castle, because he plays with Victor Wembanyama, kind of gets overlooked, and he had some turnover issues, and he needs to clean that up. He did for a little bit in the series, but defensively, there's a case to be made that guy could have been all defense. He's that good, and he's hyper athletic. So I can't wait to see how the Spurs deploy those guys against Jalen Brunson, if they're blitzing him, if they're doubling him, trapping him. It's not going to be an easy series for Jalen Brunson. So that matchup is going to go a long way to determining who wins this thing.
And remember, Jalen Brunson has to play defense. So you can't hide him anywhere in this series. And the same thing you saw against Oklahoma City Thunder. They attacked Shea on the defensive end. Even they were bodying him. They were physical with him. They were running in, even trying to get offensive rebounds. And even if they got called for a loose ball foul, they were making Shea feel them in this series. Watch out. The same thing's going to happen in this series against the Knicks.
I think John may have said it best earlier. We are the winners. Clean sweep, 4 games. Can't wait to watch this one go down. Hopefully it does go the full 7 here, watching from the sideline. John Gonzalez, Avery Johnson, we give thanks always for the insight and analysis from 2 of the best in the business. A look here at what's between these two and what stands at stake. The Knicks took down the Spurs in the NBA Cup final this season, a rematch in the real finals now. The Spurs back in the finals for the first time since 2014. The Knicks all the way back to '99 and looking for their first title since the '70s.